Hi, my name is Amber Newman, CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Brazoria County. When I was contacted to do this TED Talk, they asked me, you have to come up with a topic. So immediately I started thinking of topics. And one that really stood out to me was breaking barriers through education. See, I've been breaking barriers my whole life. Coming from a diverse household, coming from my first generation family member to graduate from college, and first generation family member to graduate from a graduate, and being the first African American to become the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club. I remember growing up and the older generation telling me, the one thing they can't take from you is your education. And that stuck with me. See, growing up, I was an only child, and I was given TED Talks before TED could talk. Talking about Barbie dolls and my Cabbage Patch dolls. And I remember times where I would have conversations and talk about things, and so this brought me to this moment. See, I was born in Louisiana, and my mother and my father would drop me off at my great-grandmother's house every morning while they had to go to work. And I would run up to her porch, and she would read The Gingerbread Man to me every morning. And then my parents got divorced. And my mom and I, we moved here to Houston, Texas. And when we did that, I began school in A-Leaf. And then from there, I was walking with my friends after school to go home. And I was a Latchy Kid. And so one thing about being a Latchy Kid and you stay with a single parent, you know your mom tells you, you better not lose that key. And so I would take the key and unlock the door and go in and lock the door behind me. And one of the first things that I had to do was call my mom to let her know that I made it home. And then after that, I was supposed to start on my homework, but I had to fix a snack first. And then after eating a snack and doing my homework, and then my mom would get home, and one of the first things I would do is say, hey, can I go outside? Can I go outside and play? And she would always ask me, is your homework done? And I would say yes. And so when it came time for me to go to middle school, my mom talked to me. She says, hey, I found a middle school. I think that would be great for you. The name of it is Fleming Middle School. Fleming Middle School in 5th Ward, north side of Houston, low economic area. So one of the things that my mom shared with me, she says, well, one of the reasons why I like this school is because it was a magnet school. And Debbie Allen went there. And so I was like, Debbie Allen went there? Debbie Allen was one of the people I enjoyed watching. She was one of the producers of A Different World. And so I remember watching that show weekly. And I was entertained by them being in college. And so I could see myself going to college. And then from that, I made friends. But I remember one of my good friends that was one of the first people that came up to me was Danielle Crockram. And she played in the WNBA. And she came up to me, and me and her, we were thick as thieves. And so we stayed together in middle school. And so my mom started a new job working for Warren Moon, a Hall of Famer that used to play for the Houston Oilers. And so they contacted our middle school and asked our principal, hey, we would love to have some of the players from the Oilers come up there to talk to the kids. And so they allowed it. I remember the principal called for a general assembly, and We were all full in the auditorium. And when those guys walked in, one of them I remember in particular, Bubba McDowell, who now is the coach at Prairie View A&M, the head football coach, to see them come in a place where we watched them on TV every Sunday, sometimes Monday Night Football, and for kids to see them and they aspired to be like them, and they actually got to see them in person. And that was breaking the barrier for them to see something different. And then when I finished middle school, I went to high school, and I went to Worthing High School in Sunnyside. At Worthing, it was a little different than Fleming because we had several teachers that taught at Worthing that actually graduated from Worthing. And so they poured into us because they were from that community, and they believed in us. I remember my high school English teacher helping me to write my college essay, to apply for college at Dillard University. And so she looked over it and she says, "Oh, I think this is great." And then I brought it to my high school counselor, who happened to be the person that I had work study with, or office worker for, Miss Regina Carrington. And she was somebody that inspired me. I looked up to her because she did everything with excellence. She was so professional. And so she looked over in my college application, and she even shared with me a scholarship opportunity from the Worthing class of 1983. And so that was another barrier that was broken for me, because not only did she help me to find money to go to college, but even review my documents. And so I finally get accepted to Dillard University, which is a historically black university. And when I got there at the time, Dr. Lomax was my president. Now he's the head over the UNCF. And so he was someone that inspired us. As an alumni of Dillard University, I shared that rank and title with someone great, Dr. Ruth Simmons, who was also the president of Prairie View A&M University. And so she's someone that I aspired to be like. Because clearly, if she can go to Dillard and graduate from Dillard, then I could too. But my first year, it didn't go quite as well as I thought it would, because I spent a lot of time on Bourbon Street. And so I remember seeing my professor for my 8 o'clock class, organic biochemistry. And he said, "Hey, I haven't seen you in my class." And I said, "Oh, I'll get there on Friday." Friday came and went. And so when my mom got my report card, she indicated to me, she says, "Hey, Amber, you're going to have to pull these grades up, or you're going to have to come home." And for me, I didn't want to come home. And so I did pull my grades up. And I remember when I was at Dillard, they had other students who looked like me that had other barriers. And then I remember graduating and going into getting married to my husband, LaMarcus Newman, and having kids. And then for some strange reason, we decided that we would want to go back to school to get a graduate degree. So we graduated from Texas Southern University in the School of Public Affairs. And I remember looking up at my kids and seeing how proud they were of us and our accomplishment. And so after graduating from there, I told my husband, we went to a study abroad trip to Ghana, and there were kids at the Newman school. And we said, "Oh, they were so hungry for education. I want more." He says, "What else you want to do?" I said, "Well, I think I want to be a CEO of a small nonprofit." And I said, "Okay." He said, "Okay." I said, "But I'm going to wait a year, because I don't think I'm ready. He said, no, you need to do it now. So when we got back to the States, I applied for the job. I literally applied for 2 jobs. One, for the Boys and Girls Club of Brazoria County, and the second one was for Habitat for Humanity. So I interviewed for the Boys and Girls Club. It was a panel of my board members, 13 board members, and there was one small chair for me. It was very intimidating, another barrier to cross. So they interviewed me, and they asked me, why do you think you're the best person for this job? How are you at fundraising? I told them, ask my daddy. He says I'm pretty good. He says I like to ask him for money all the time. So I wound up getting the job for the Boys and Girls Club of Brazoria County, and one of the promises that I made to my board members was I was going to level the playing field for the kids that we served. I wanted to break barriers for them, just as all my teachers, administrative people had done for me. Gave me an opportunity, my high school counselor helping me by getting a scholarship. And so from that, we do that every day at the Boys and Girls Club. We break barriers by giving them opportunities to go to the Astros game, the Texans games, getting them out of their local community so they can see something different and aspire to do more. Because one day when I'm not there, one of them will lead our organization. And they'll think about the times that they had those opportunities and those barriers that were broken for them. My son runs track, and he runs the hurdles. And so every time I watch him cross those hurdles, those are barriers. So I want to do the same. I want to continue to cross barriers. And so how do we aspire to do that? We help the youth to help them cross the barriers so one day we can sit down. Thank you.